All right, if everyone wants to work their way to the seats, we'll get started here momentarily. So Connor, it's this? Okay, all right. All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming to our workshop number 2 for this Sherman Avenue Stormwater Park. I'm Nick Bond, the Director of Community Development. I've got some staff here with me. Dennis Ryan is our Public Works Director. Jim Fisk is our Principal Planner, and Connor Dahlquist is our Associate Planner. Excuse me. We are following up on our previous workshop. It's been quite a few months since we last met. This project has been led by a steering committee made up of the mayor, council member Mark Trenary, who is also in attendance tonight. Raise your hand, Mark, so everybody knows who you are, and the staff that I've already introduced. First of all, I want to ask how many of you came to our previous workshop? Just about all of you, but not everyone. So what I'd like to do, since there's not too many people here tonight, I'd like everyone to just share their name, let us know where in Port Orchard you live, and why you decided to attend tonight's workshop. And Jim is going to walk around with a microphone, and you guys can pass it around the room, and then we'll continue.
My name is Kim Abel. I live off of Sydney on Goldenrod. And I came to the last workshop, and I filled out the forms earlier, and I'm just watching it because I love that little space down there.
Hi, my name is Alia. I also live off of Goldenrod, and I'm here because I love native plants and ponds, and I'm excited about this project.
Hi, I'm Tyler. I live with her across from her. And I was here last time, and love what's happening. Yeah.
I'm Valerie. I live off of Bethel on Blueberry. I'm concerned about what's happening behind us, so I'm here to check out the plans. We were here the first time.
Yep, and I'm Bruce. I live with her, and yeah, we're on the other side of Blackjack from the park.
I'm Kurt. I live on Stetson Lane down the end of Sydney. Did not fill out the survey, but after I became aware of it, have some concerns about a couple of the different options, so I want to provide input.
I'm Tina Nelson. I also live on Stetson Lane at the end of Sydney, together with these two. I missed the first workshop. I filled out the survey, and I'm very interested in learning about a project that is right near where I live.
I'm Caleb. I also live off Stetson. Interested in what's going on in the backyard.
Greg Gressett. I live off of Shamrock Lane. Been there since '02, and I too just want to be involved and express any concerns we might have.
Councilmember Trenary, do you want to say?
I live off Bothwell Street. Been there about 40-some years, so I'm real familiar with this. I don't like doing these. So I'm real familiar with the area. Used to take my kids down to Paul Powers Park. Still walk my dog around the neighborhood down there, Flower. Prior to owning my house or purchasing my house 40 years ago, I lived off Flower. So I'm real familiar with that area, and I'm concerned about what goes in there and make sure that the community itself is interested and happy with what the city does there.
All right, continuing on, next slide. So back in 2022, the city of Port Orchard, we bought this 30-acre piece of property. It's shown on the map and has been highlighted in the mailers that have gone out. And the reason that we bought this was because we've heard from this neighborhood for years that there is a lack of sidewalks, and there's a desire to see sidewalks improved on Sydney, but also serving these neighborhoods. And when you add sidewalks to a street, you have to figure out where the stormwater from those sidewalks is going to go. And so being that this road was developed prior to any stormwater management requirements and without public stormwater facilities, in order for us to do any sort of street improvements in the area, we need to develop a regional stormwater facility that can handle that stormwater. So the property that we bought is, while it's upstream on Blackjack Creek within this neighborhood, it's mostly downstream of all the public roads in terms of where stormwater would flow via gravity, either in ditches or in pipes. And so it's a logical place for a stormwater facility. And because there's more than enough room on the property for park amenities, the park was actually financed with both park funds and stormwater funds so that it could be jointly developed for both purposes. Next slide, please. So our steering committee, we kicked this project off last year in April. We did a site visit. We walked the site. We did bump into a couple of the neighbors down on Sherman and talked to them. We heard that this park used to have baseball fields at one point in time. There's also a number of fruit trees out there. And so we walked the site. We got a good feel for the topography, the wetlands and stream access that's on the property. And that started informing how we looked at laying out stormwater facilities, which sort of have to go where gravity and the flow of stormwater is going to lead them to be placed, and started figuring out what area would be left for development. So I mentioned the baseball field and the fruit trees on the, thanks for advancing the slides, I forgot to tell you to do that. We have done community engagement. We started out with an online survey. We put door hangers on every apartment within the neighborhood and then mailed postcards to every address in the neighborhood. We put posters up in businesses in the area, and we're soliciting input from the community. Based on that survey result, we had our first workshop last September. We presented the project background, and we reviewed the survey information that was provided to us, and we tried to take that survey information and the feedback that we received and to kind of guide the comments into creating 3 different alternatives. And so at that meeting, we worked to flesh out those alternatives. And then since that meeting, we have been, Connor, our associate planner, who's got excellent graphic design skills, has been working on illustrating this so that you can actually look at a plan and sort of see what this looks like, where things would be located, how they would be spaced, and can actually weigh in on a preferred alternative. Next slide. So in our first workshop, we heard that there was a high preference for trails and natural conservation spaces. There was an interest in a mix of amenities included with trails. There was a high preference for the existing habitat and Blackjack Creek preservation and a desire for low maintenance design. So we didn't want to have an expensive to maintain park. And so tonight, we are really checking in with the community to see whether these alternatives really reflect the feedback that's been given, see if anything is missing from any of the alternatives, understanding that each alternative is supposed to be distinct from the other alternative, and then and just hear from you and be here to answer your questions. And so I'm going to let Connor Dahlquist, our associate planner, he's the one who developed these plans. He's going to come up and walk you through the design alternatives and tell you about each one, and then I'll come back up and wrap us up here at the end.
Awesome, thank you, Nick. Yeah, so diving into the design alternatives, from what we've gathered from the survey and the last workshop. So we presented this at the first workshop, was the Trails and Conservation Park, Family Nature Park, and the Community Garden and Recreation Park. And we kind of just briefly went through these concepts so that this workshop, as Nick shared, is going deeper dive into all of these 3. And to digging into each of these, just kind of see some common themes. So those wetlands and those stormwater ponds are based off of preliminary engineer drawings. So those consider the buffers and the existing or the wetlands in the stormwater park. So that's kind of why you see a common theme of those dark greener spots and then those lighter, darker green spots. So the first alternative is the Trails and Conservation Park. This alternative emphasizes preserving the natural character of the site, meandering soft trails, weave through the native vegetation and around stormwater ponds. This offers scenic views and peaceful walking opportunities. The eastern edge features an overlook points with interpretive signage about Blackjack Creek and the area's ecology. Minimal built features help maintain a low-maintenance, habitat-friendly landscape, making this option ideal for nature lovers and those seeking a quiet, passive park experience. This alternative is based on some local case study examples, as well as some across the nation with similar structures. So the first one we looked into was the Stormwater Wetland Park in Arlington, Washington, and that is the top left one. So this park shows how stormwater infrastructure can double as a public amenity, using boardwalks, soft trails, and viewing platforms to bring people into restored wetland without disturbing the sensitive habitat and stormwater infrastructure. The next example, the Prairie Waterway Stormwater Park in Farmington, Minnesota, which is, go back to the last one. Yeah, that bottom center one. This project integrates native prairie plantings and meandering pathways around wetlands and water retention facilities to create a landscape that is both ecologically functional and visually beautiful. Other amenities we found important to include from various parks were opportunities for education and observation. So creating moments for viewing while learning of the functions of the park was one of the major feedbacks we received from the survey in the last workshop. There we go. Oh, sorry. Frozen. All right, so diving into that alternative one experience to kind of paint a picture of how this would look. So as you enter the site, the pathways shift from firm gravel to softer natural trails that weave through trees and native plantings. These trails are intentionally simple and low maintenance, allowing for the landscape to remain the focal point. One of the signature features are the elevated boardwalks, as you can see in the render on the left, bottom left. This isn't just a route through the wetlands, it's a place to slow down, walk along the boardwalks, you're lifted above the wetland vegetation, and it gives a chance to see the ecology up close without disturbing it. There might be a moment to stop at the overlook points, where small platforms extend out to create quiet pockets for bird watching, sketching, or just simply watching and listening to the waters move through the system. Throughout the park, the design emphasizes conservation, restored habitat zones, native plant communities, and stormwater wetlands that function as both ecological infrastructure and educational opportunities. This alternative is ideal for those who value tranquility, wildlife, and a natural park experience. Alternative 2, so this is the Family Nature Park, and this balances open green space and informal nature play areas. So visitors will find small picnic areas, spaces for playground equipment, and looped paths implementing nature exploration opportunities. The stormwater facilities may function as educational features with viewing platforms as well here, and interpretive signage for all types of ages. The sloped areas along Blackjack Creek remain with native vegetation, with potential lookout spots offering views of the creek. And this option is family-friendly, inviting people of all ages to explore, learn, and enjoy a safe natural setting. For the Family Nature Park concept, we looked at parks with successfully blend recreation with natural character. The Menominee Valley Community Park in Milwaukee is a great example of how open lawns, looped with walking paths and nature-based play areas can coexist. That's the top left one. And it shows how families can enjoy the active spaces without losing that sense of being in nature. Also looked internationally over at Thornton Park in Campbelltown, Australia. This offers a strong precedent for the nature trail and activity guides for children and how they can play, encourage kids to interact, explore, and balance, and interact. Explore, climb, balance, and interact with natural materials. The park uses logs, boulders, and plantings to create a play experience that feels organic rather than manufactured. These case studies highlight the value of combining nature play, open space, and family-friendly amenities like picnic shelters and shaded seating. So diving into that experience, at the heart of the design is the nature playground shown in the rendering. So kids are climbing and balancing, exploring tactile play elements. They're moving through organic structures that feel part of the landscape rather than placed on top. It's playful but still grounded in the nature character of the site. And surrounding this area is a flexible open lawn space. So opportunities for running, tossing a frisbee, spreading out on a blanket. And the looped walking path ties everything together, giving families a safe, continuous route to stroll, push strollers, or bike at a relaxed pace. Picnic shelters are also a key element in this feature. You'll see that in the section design on the top. These shaded structures create a natural gathering points for birthday parties, dinners, or community events, and they're positioned to overlook both the playground and the surrounding landscape, so adults can relax while still keeping an eye on the activity. of the youth around. This alternative blends nature and recreation in a park that feels welcoming, lively, family-oriented, while still maintaining that strong connection to the environment while the trails meandering through the park. And our last alternative, the community garden and recreation park. So this park alternative introduces more of a structured amenities for active use. The community garden plots are positioned near the site entrance, while stormwater ponds are landscaped for visual interest and water education, possibly accessible for additional open space when not in use. Sports courts or multi-use courts areas can provide recreational opportunities as well, and the level elevation near the street provides ideal spaces for gathering areas and seating, while the trails still connect users to the natural sites near Blackjack Creek. A perimeter trail allows for great options for cardio. This is a lively social park vision focused on the shared use of the community. So some of the case studies we looked at were the John McBride Community Park in Vancouver, BC. And this demonstrates how the community garden plots can become a true community hub, a place where people can gather, learn, and build relationships. That was the top left one. Then downtown Cary Park right next to that. This park illustrates how flexible gathering spaces, seating areas, and small plazas can support community events and casual socializing. Then lastly, the last two were the Madison Valley Stormwater Park, which is over in Seattle, and the Ocala Wetland Recharge Park in Florida. Those both show how stormwater features can be integrated into active recreation areas, blending ecological function with public use. These parks include trails, overlooks, and educational elements alongside more active amenities, which is pretty foundational for this concept. So this experience shifts towards community connection and active recreation. The community garden is at the heart of the design, a place where neighbors can tend raised beds, learn about growing foods, and share of the harvest. It's both a productive landscape and a social one, with seating areas and small gathering spots woven between the plots. But this concept also brings a higher level of activity. So the sports courts included in this site plan are the pickleball and basketball courts. Create a lively hub for family competition near the site's front. These courts are placed near the open lawn areas as well, which accommodates small frisbee areas, a small disc golf loop. So together, the garden and active spaces create a dynamic environment, part of a community hub, part wellness space, part outdoor classroom. It's a park where people can gather, grow, play, and build, which is definitely more of a social and energetic alternative based on, compared to the others before. I'll hand it off to Nick, and he'll kind of jump into, is this the right direction? And at the end of the presentation, if you guys want to explore more of the boards in detail, there's more labels on these site plans that are printed, so you can see more of the details and what's happening. And there's also sticky notes and pens if you want to mark up comments and place them on the board as well. But, thank you.
All right, thank you, Connor. And we are lucky to have Connor at the City of Port Orchard. He has design skills beyond what most planners have, and we're very fortunate to be able to take advantage of him. So we really want to hear from you as to whether we're going in the right direction. We have prepared a second survey, and this survey is going to be open through July 12th. And we are asking you to, it's a pretty short survey. We're mostly just getting background information, trying to figure out if you've participated in this process previously or if you're new to it. And really, we're asking you which alternative you prefer, or if you like a hybrid of two alternatives, you can explain that in more detail in the survey. So we're at the point where we're hoping that that everyone we talk to, as we kind of shift to more of an open house setting, can confirm that we're headed in the right direction, or at least one of the alternatives in their mind is heading in the right direction, and then we can hone in on a preferred alternative. So in terms of our next steps, we're going to review feedback from this evening and through the survey, which, Jim, is it July 15th or July 12th? July 12th. Okay, this slide had the wrong date on it. So anyway, we're hopeful that we're going to be able to coalesce around a consensus, or at least a hybrid consensus between two of the alternatives. And you know, if there's any ideas that aren't captured in these alternatives, it's really up to the community to say, tell your neighbors to take the survey and say, hey, this is missing amenity X, whatever that might be. And it's not too late to add something to one of these alternatives that's not under consideration right now, but it would need broad community support to do so at this point in time. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, and once questions are complete, we're just going to hang out until everybody has had a chance to come up to the boards, ask us questions, talk about the project, and we'll stay here as long as people want, within reason. Mark.
What plans does the city have, to your knowledge, what plans does the city have, to your knowledge, of getting this survey back out to more than the 14 people or so that we have here? Can we go back out with more mailers or door hangers, as we did in the original information?
We can, but I think when we created our public participation plan, we were really targeting this area between Highway 16 and Blackjack Creek and Tremont to the north, because this is intended to be a neighborhood park. We will be publicizing this more, and so we do want the greater community to weigh in on a preferred alternative, but the process of actually developing the alternatives really was for the community, and so we want to hear from the people who live near the park first and foremost, and but it is open to everyone. Yeah, back.
I'm curious to how many responses were received on the first survey?
Jim, do you recall and I think we have a mailing list as well of people who signed up to be interested parties that are getting information about this, so.
I believe it was between 80 and 100 is my recollection. Is that about right? Yeah.
Is that about 10% of who lives in that, households in that area?
I don't know offhand how many houses are in that area, but that's probably pretty close. There are some apartment complexes, and so there's a good amount of people living in the neighborhood. And I would say for a neighborhood outreach, that's actually a really good turnout. When we did the whole Parks Recreation Plan for the whole city, where we kind of took a high-level look at our whole park system, we did mailers, including mailers into the rural part of the county of people that might come to the city to use our parks, and I think we had 500 responses. So getting 100 out of this neighborhood compared to 500 for our whole parks plan is pretty in line with the participation you typically see.
What's the likelihood that there will be funding to do any of this?
Very likely. So Dennis, our Public Works Director, is here, and for the stormwater portion of the park, we have, every 5 years, the federal government issues our NPDES permit, which is a National Pollution Discharge Elimination Permit. And so that permit comes with various conditions, and one of the conditions that we have is we have to provide stormwater treatment facilities in parts of the city that don't currently have those. So this is the project that we've selected to implement this. So we're going to go forward with the stormwater piece of this project within the next 3 years, I would think. I think next year we will hire an engineer to actually design the construction documents for the park and stormwater facility, and then funding permitting, the stormwater funding will definitely be there. The park funding should be there, and we're likely to apply for a grant. And so it's possible those will get bid together, or we'll put in the stormwater ponds first and then come back and do the park improvements later once we have state funding. But the state has a really nice program through the Recreation Conservation Office that provides a 50% match. So those are typically relatively easy grants to get, and so we would have to apply for that in the next application cycle in 2028, which provides funding in 2029 for the park improvements. But council could decide to fund this out of other parks funds ahead of that anyway, if they chose.
So just to clarify, the park and detention facility are not integrally linked together. I mean, they're tied together, but one is not dependent upon the other.
They are going to be designed to be compatible with each other, but the phasing of when things get constructed could go somewhat independent, just depending on funding. But I would say you're very likely to see activity on this project in 2028 for the stormwater piece. Well, when council decides to build a park, they also are thinking about how they're going to maintain it, and they're committing to maintaining that park. So that was something that we heard in the feedback, is they want low maintenance facilities, and natural areas certainly do that. If we have more playground equipment, sports facilities, that's obviously a more expensive thing. But if that's what the community wants, then the city council is going to have to say, how do we afford this and what's it going to take? In back?
I'm curious, the timing, so we talk about it in the Stormwater Park, and that's kind of the hinge to every other amenity that's offered north of that. I'm curious the timing of sidewalks, road improvements, those kind of things. So are we looking at like this park's gonna go in, you guys are gonna have what you need to be in compliance, and then, we're suffering a little bit? What's the timing?
So for the road projects, there will be frontage improvements that will have to get built with the park, because anytime property develops, we do curb, gutter, sidewalk, landscaping, and sidewalks. So the sidewalks on Sherman, you're gonna build the sidewalks from the end of the neighborhood and kind of work your way back up to the top of the hill. We have a transportation impact fee that includes Sherman Avenue, I forget the name, Fireweed, Sydney, Sherman Avenue are all part of the park impact fee. So every time a house is built, they're paying a park impact fee. I think it's about $8,900, around $9,000. And so that money, once a stormwater facility is in place, it's just a matter of council choosing to appropriate traffic impact fee funds to actually build the projects. And usually we'll try to apply for a grant to leverage those funds and kind of multiply them. So I would say that it's likely that once the stormwater pond is in place, one of those projects will get pulled and put into our 6-year transportation improvement program, which means it gets funded within a 6-year time frame. Right now, all of those are on the 20-year list, which is sort of these are in our plan, but we're not sure exactly when they're going to start. And then the 6-year list is we have funding, and we're kind of programming out that funding, and so we'll need to pull those projects off the 20-year list, put them on the 6-year list, and then they should happen within 6 years. Sooner if we get grant funding.
And then you guys still have to bring stormwater all the way up to
Yeah,
the road, right?
yeah. With each road project, we would be extending stormwater. So that's why we would start with Sherman, Fireweed, then Sydney, because we'll be extending the stormwater pipes with each phase. Yeah.
I'm not getting too ahead here. I really love the community garden idea, but my question is, would the local community be absolutely 100% responsible for that community garden, or are there any services that would be afforded?
If that's what the community wants to see, we had a group come to our land use committee a few years ago asking for a site for a community garden, and they sort of wanted to sponsor and run it, and then they would make plots available to people that you can reserve and have your own little area. So there's already a group out there that would like to see one of these in Port Orchard. We don't currently have a community garden, and so if that ends up being the preferred alternative, we would reach back out to those folks and probably look at partnering with them for that aspect of the park. Yeah.
So then does that mean then that community park there, that food is being grown for themselves, or is it being grown for the food bank? Is there a way to kind of split that?
I don't think we wouldn't get into the operations question just yet. I think it could be either. I know most of the pea patches that you have in surrounding communities, each person has their little plot and the food is theirs to do what they want with it. Some people choose to give it to the food bank, but I think that's sort of how that would work, is up to the individual. Yeah, Kim?
I'm trying to figure out what you want us to do tonight. So you want us to give you feedback, and then you're going to meld that into 2 alternatives to put to the council? That's the piece I'm trying to figure out.
So we're here to answer questions, and so we can do the group question thing, but we also want you to come up and look at the boards, and you may see something in the board and say, I want to write a note and say, I really like, a particular amenity on the board, and you can tell us that. But the survey is really trying to identify which alternative is preferred by the community, and it may be that 80% of the community wants alternative 1, and it's split between the other 2, in which case we're probably just going to go with alternative 1, or maybe there's something that we hear from a lot of people from alternative 2. They say, I want alternative 1, but everybody also wants just the natural playground as a feature, but otherwise keep it alternative 1. So we have to see what the preference is from the community. We took a similar approach with the McCormick Village Park when we did that master plan back in 2009, 2010. There were 3 alternatives, and then we kind of had a hybrid alternative based on the feedback that was received, and that's how we sort of outlined in our planning document, okay, this is what the community wants, and then we went and applied for grants to get it built. So we're trying to pick an alternative tonight, or a hybrid of alternatives if people feel strongly that they like elements of more than one. Yeah.
Now, the Bentley Nature Park, if that one unfortunately gets done, will that play space be accessible for handicap children?
Yeah, that's the law. We can't make an inaccessible. Yep. Yeah, we have to do that. That's federal law, and if we get any grants from the state, that would be a requirement of the state grant as well. Yes?
Have you guys done any feasibility as far as infiltration capacity on that property?
One of our civil engineers did look at this a few years ago, but we haven't done a full geotechnical report or anything. That will occur as part of the engineering design. And so once we've adopted the conceptual plan of what we want, we're going to give that to an engineer and say, okay, go design this. They're going to get the geotechnical report, which they may find that things really infiltrate well, and maybe we need smaller ponds, or they may say this is really poor soil, we need larger ponds, or we need to somehow modify the site to make this work. And so that'll sort of get ironed out in the engineering phase. And these are just conceptual to show you generally where the amenities are going to go, but the engineering design is going to really dictate exactly what this looks like as part of a next step. Yeah.
So we don't really know yet how large of an area that this park could actually treat.
No, and we will do a stormwater report for we'll look at the total square footage of the roads that would be conveyed into these facilities and make sure that they're sized appropriately. And there are different road designs that we could do. You could do a sidewalk where there's a bioswale or some sort of infiltration facility in the road, and overflows would come to this, so the road's actually treating and managing stormwater where, closer to where it falls, where the rain falls. Or you may have a traditional just straight curbs sidewalk where all the water's coming to this pond, and if we have really good soils, that may be the more cost-effective option. So we'll look at that as part of the engineering analysis.
But it's only intended to treat right-of-way, water and right-of-way.
Correct, yeah, we wouldn't.
Private property.
Yeah, we're not providing stormwater facilities for private development. Right. So with that, Jim, Connor, Dennis, and I are all available for questions. I would just invite you to come up to the board, and if there's pens, there's Post-it notes. If you see something you like, please draw an arrow, write what you like, and stick it on the board, and we'll make sure that we capture that input. And then the flyers that are out on the table have a QR code that'll take you to the survey. And so if you could advance the slide, Jim. We have it. Sorry, I haven't advanced my slide. Yeah, the QR code will take you to the survey, and again, that'll be open through July 12th, correct? All right, thank you. Oh.
Just want to thank everybody for coming, but more importantly than that is to please get this QR code, share it with your neighbors. We want to know, it's important to us, we want to know what's important to the community down there, not just several of us were here the previous meeting. We want to know from a higher percentage of the community, so we build the right thing for everyone down there. So please, share it with your friends, get as much input as you can to help us help you. Thank you.